So as you know, COVID-19 affects everyone differently. Dr. Greg Phillips spent more than 100 days in hospital recovering and is still dealing with the after effects. Dr. Phillips and his husband, Matt Pettigrew, join us now to talk some more about this. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
So, Greg, when did it start? Can you go back to when you actually tested positive for COVID-19, what that looked and felt like?
I tested positive about March 20th. At that time, I had dizziness, a little bit of a sore throat, and a headache. After that, I don't remember. So I will let Matt tell you. I don't remember the week before I went into hospital and for the 70 days I was in ICU.
So I also know, Greg, that your vocal cords have been affected by the virus, and I just want to point that out to viewers as well. So, Matt, what happened to you? First of all, did you get sick?
I was, yeah. I got sick. I started showing symptoms probably about a day or two before he did. I had high fever, really started respiratory symptoms immediately, bad cough, headache like I've never experienced before. He started getting the same symptoms as me within a few days.
Okay, so what happened next, Matt? Because clearly Greg got sick a lot faster after that. What do you recall as to what happened?
So when I started turning the corner and feeling mildly better, he began to develop a spasmodic cough, just he thought that it was just his lungs irritated. That lasted for a few days, and on the third day of that, we decided to check his oxygen levels using a pulse oximeter that he had ordered on Amazon. That showed that his oxygen rates were about 67% that morning. That was the 26th of March. We took a second reading, it showed 63%. Then he had a coughing fit and his levels dropped down to 57%. His lips turned blue, his face turned white, and you want to be above 90%. So at 57% plus the effects that he was showing, we knew that we had to take him to the emergency on the 26th, where he was admitted to ICU and intubated that day.
Okay, so Greg, you're a doctor. When your oxygen level readings were that low, what were you thinking? Do you remember?
Well, I knew it was not good, and at the very likelihood, I had some sort of pneumonia, and I needed to go to the hospital because I was too sick to stay at home.
Okay, and then Matt, he was taken into the hospital, put in the ICU immediately. What happened after that?
So he was intubated, and within 2 days of that, he went into kidney failure as well. He had to be put onto dialysis. Basically, he was in the ICU for 10 weeks. He basically had, lungs were failing. He had kidney failure. His sepsis from an infected line on the dialysis. He had his heart was going into arrhythmia. He was having clotting issues, so had to be on an anticoagulant. The virus was attacking his brain. He had encephalopathy, which was causing cognitive issues. They thought he may have had a stroke at one point, but the CT scan came back clear. As a secondary to the pneumonia he had in his lungs, he also had necrotizing pneumonia, so the tissue in his lungs was essentially abscess as well.
So, Matt, at this time, were you even allowed to see him?
No. The only way I got to see him for the first 54 days was via Zoom meeting, but because he was either fully sedated and unconscious or only semi-conscious because of the level of at which the virus was attacking his brain, he was usually just staring at the ceiling. And on day 54, I had made a special request. By this point, Greg had started to come back cognitively, and you could tell that he was dealing with some PTSD, major depression. So I went up the food chain and I requested one visit to the ICU. Had to wear full PPE. And after that, I didn't see him again until day 71. When
wow.
he was,
Matt, I'm clearly you thought you were going to lose him at some point.
Multiple times. April 22nd is a day that is burned in my brain, is a day that the camera was turned to his face and he was staring at the ceiling, and I thought that that was the last time I was going to see him alive. Having his heart cardioverted multiple times During the first few weeks, we thought that we were going to have to say goodbye to him at that point as well, but it was terrifying.
Greg, when you're hearing all of this, I mean, you're a doctor, so you have that sort of added understanding of what all of this means for the human body. What are you thinking now? I know you're not completely free of the effects of the virus, but you've made it through the worst part, it sounds. What goes through your mind?
Well, it just shows how sick I was and how close I was to not making it. When I find out the stuff about being on dialysis, on being cardioverted, it upset me because I didn't think it was that bad, but it was. However, I pulled through. I have residual permanent lung damage. I'm weak. Can't use my left arm well yet, but we're hoping with time and with rehab, I will get better.
As you know, there's a resurgence of the virus, particularly in the U.S., as there are in other countries as well. Greg, you tell me, first of all, what you want to tell people about COVID-19.
The most important thing is that it's serious, that we should not be not doing social distancing. We need to wear masks. There have been cases here in BC, in Kelowna, on Third Beach a day or two ago, where people had parties that they weren't doing so, and the rates climb again. In the States, it's bad. In Alberta, they had a party in Sylvan Lake a few weeks ago, and the rates in Alberta are going up too. It can be stopped if people are smart and keep using masks and keep doing social distancing, because it's not over yet. And it can fell a healthy person like me. It can fell you too.
Matt, I want you to also weigh in on this, because although you didn't go through the same illness, or you didn't go through the illness the same way, you're on the flip side of it. And a lot of people don't realize the challenge of that.
Yeah, I mean, you can't really put to words how absolutely awful and harrowing it is to have your loved one nearly die and not even be able to hold his hand. You're relying on a single phone call a day from a doctor who's really overwhelmed, especially initially when there are a lot of cases. You really need to keep in mind that it's not just the person that you yourself who may be sick, but your loved ones who are phoning the hospital daily, wondering whether or not a Zoom call is going to be the way that you're going to say goodbye to your loved one. And to know that they're essentially, drowning and flailing on the other end with perfect strangers. Even if they are cognitively there, you can't see their faces. They're covered by masks and no one's familiar to them. So not only is it horrible for the person who's in the hospital, it's absolutely awful for those who are on the other end of it, unable to visit their loved ones. And this has been the worst crisis of our lives. Yes, it may have brought us closer together, but I wouldn't wish this on anybody, not even my worst enemy. It was absolutely awful. And just by taking some precautions and following what the experts are saying, you can spare yourself and your families what we went through.
Yeah.
Matt Pettigrew, Dr. Greg Phillips, appreciate your time. Dr. Phillips, good luck. We really hope you make a full recovery.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.